You're listening to the weekly Parsha Podcast with Ari Goldwag, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in 5780, 2019. This week's Parsha is Parshas Haazinu, and I must admit that my plan was not to say more about Yom Kippur, because we spoke about Yom Kippur, but I found the most beautiful thing, the most beautiful piece in Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, and I'd like to share with you what he says, and I think that it's very much connected, not just to Yom Kippur, but also to Sukkos, which is coming up. And the thought is just so beautiful and so moving that I wanted to share it with all of you. I'm going to read it out from Chaim Shmulevitz. He says like this: Givonim, chapter 32, verse 4 says, Hashem is perfect, His ways are perfect, all of His ways are mishpat, are perfectly judged. He's a God of Emunah, He's faithful, ve'en avel, there's nothing, God does not do anything which is incorrect. He says like this: what is the idea of the Pasuk says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, is somebody who is a God of faithfulness, doesn't do anything wrong. Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer, one of the scions of the Musar movement, he had a question. What kind of praise is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't do anything wrong? What, even human beings, when they do judgment, when there are human courts, they also have to make sure that they don't do anything wrong. They don't judge unfavorably. Sometimes it needs to be unfavorable. They don't judge incorrectly. What, human beings are allowed to do that, such that it's a praise of Hashem that He does that? That He judges properly. Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer explains, when it comes to the judgment of human beings, even though it's done correctly, it's impossible for everything to be perfect, for them to judge perfectly correct. It's impossible for there not to be some kind of miscarriage of justice. Because human beings cannot figure out precisely exactly how big the sin was. Each person is different. Two people can do the same thing. For one person it's a much greater sin, for one person it's a lesser sin. No person can give a proper decision when it comes to what's the proper amount that a person should be punished. A human being judges things as best as they can. Based on this estimate, that's how they set the judgment. And that's what the verse means when it says that with Hashem, with God, there's no avel, there's no negativity, there's no miscarriage of justice. Because the judgment of Hashem is done with extreme precision. When a person is judged by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem decides that he's going to be punished for something, so it's exactly precise, corresponding to what they've done wrong. Everything is precisely according to what they deserve for having done this particular sin. See over there his words. And if we look at this, we'll see that the judgments of human beings are different than the judgments of Hashem. It's not just when it comes to the precision of how Hashem judges things. There are certain things that we find by the judgment of Hashem that are completely different than the judgments of human beings. Now listen to this, because this is the mind blower. Nemar, Pasuk says in Tzefania, chapter 2, verse 3, Asher mishpatai pa'alu, that there's a concept that when there's judgment, pa'alu. The word pa'alu means there are actions. What does it mean that there are actions? Perish Chazal, our sages tell us, the Gemara in Yevamis and Dafayin Chesem Beis, Kasher mishpatai sham pa'alu. Whenever there's judgment, there's actions there as well. Upirish Rashi tells us, listen, amazing. B'makom shedanan es adam sham mazkirin pa'al tzidkaisav. When Hashem judges a human being, He doesn't just look at the negative side of the human being. He also mentions the tzidkus, the righteousness of that person that He's judging. The Sham Yisa'id, we find that the verse says, El Shaul ve'el beis hadamim. we find the verse tells us that when it came to King Saul, Saul was a great king of Israel, the first king of the Jewish people. And in some ways he was very righteous, but in some ways he did certain things that were very wrong. The Pasuk says, it refers to King Saul and the house of blood. El Shaul means Shalei Nisbar Ka'alacha, that when King Saul died, he wasn't properly eulogized. He was such a great person and they did not properly give homage to his true greatness. El Beis Hadamim, but it also refers to the fact that there was a Beis Hadamim, there was a house of blood, Asher Himeses Givonim, because King Saul had unjustly killed the Givonim. Umakshe. So we say, there's a question. The Pasuk is saying a taina on the Jewish people, that they didn't properly eulogize him, right? He was obviously a great person. And at the same time it says that he had killed the Givonim. Shani in. Gemara answers, how could it be how did these two things reconcile? The Amar Resh Lakish, Hashem Mishpata Shampa'olu. That we have this concept, this amazing concept, that whenever Hashem judges a person, when Hashem mentions the fact that King Saul was somebody who had unjustly killed the Givonim, at the same time, even before he mentions the negative, he mentions the positive, that he wasn't properly eulogized because he was such a great person. He was such a great tzaddik, such a righteous human being. V'nira, she'ena kavana bechlal zeh, says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, it seems that the intent here, it doesn't mean to say it's it doesn't mean, you could think it means like this. When Hashem judges a person, he doesn't forget about the fact that he's a tzaddik. He remembers that also. No. What seems to be kimida himilfanov. Says Reb Chaim that there's a special characteristic of Hashem. When Hashem is judging a person's negative deeds, it is Hashem's way to mention the many positive things that he's done, the many tzidkus, all of the righteous things that he has done. Whenever there's mishpat, whenever there's judgment of the negative, there Hashem brings in and mentions first, we could say, the good, the positive actions that he's done. Because specifically at the time of judgment, Hashem mentions the good deeds of a person. Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, I'm going to prove to you that this is a correct understanding of this Gemara and this Pasuk. Because we have a story with Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was the founder of the Musar movement, of the yeshivas that were involved and specialized in working on character development, alongside, of course, Talmudic study. So there was a story with Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. There was a certain person who he needed to give rebuke to. The person that does something wrong, he needed to tell him. And when he went to speak to this person, he took with him a certain amount of money that he owed that person. So the students asked him, why are you bringing this money yourself right now? Why don't you send it with an agent? Send it with the postal service. He said to them, he said he's fulfilling. We know that there's a concept that human beings are obligated to try to emulate Hashem, to do that which Hashem does. And he said, I am doing that which Hashem does. This Gemara, that wherever Hashem judges a person, that's where he he lifts him up in a positive way. So he was saying that since I'm coming to give the person rebuke, I need to do something positive, which is I need to give him the money that I owe him. I need to show him that he has something that he deserves. What is the idea? As we said, amazing thing. When a person is being judged, there's an obligation on the one who is judging them to do as Hashem does, which is to bring them closer, to show them love, to remember all the good things that they've done. At the very moment that Hashem is dealing with our negative deeds, or that in this case Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was involved with this person's negative deeds, if I notice that my kid is doing something wrong, I need to make sure to mention all the things that they do right at the same time. And that's how Rabbi Yisrael Salanter behaved. At the very moment that he was saying negative things to the person, giving him a rebuke for the things that he'd done wrong, as not by midas Keruvim meruba, he did an extra thing he didn't have to do. He didn't have to be the one to bring the money to him. He could have sent it with somebody else, but no, he specifically went out of his way to do it himself. And he changed his normal way of being. Just amazing and beautiful. I'm going to keep reading because it's just so sweet. The pasuk says, the verse tells us that Hashem's tzedek, his righteousness, which denotes that he looks at the positive, that he does tzedakah, he gives charity to his people, he notices the positive things, kahareel, or like mighty mountains. The second half of the pasuk is mishpatecha taim rabba, that the judgment is very deep. The Lamdenu brothers comes to teach us that in that very judgment itself, in the very place where Hashem is judging the Jewish people, judging us as individuals and as a nation, we have both things. And wherever Hashem judges us harshly, to the deepest depths, so then Hashem raises us up, like to the great mountains, the mighty mountains, the tzedakah, the righteous things that we've done, the charity that Hashem shows us. He looks at our positive things at the same exact moment. Miriam, he tells us, I'm not going to read this part inside, but he tells us that it was so with Maisa Miriam. Miriam Anavia, she spoke negatively of Moshe Rabbeinu, and as a result she got sarah, she got leprosy, and she had to be sequestered for a week, and the entire Jewish people had to wait for her an entire week. It was of course embarrassing, and at the same time that there was deep judgment, but there was deep chesed. Why did the entire Jewish people wait for her? Why didn't they just leave without her? And the reason was because Hashem remembered the tzidkus that she did, the righteousness that she did, which was that when Moshe Rabbeinu was a little baby, and Moses went inside of that little teva, that little boat on the Nile River, she waited there for him. And so the Jewish people waited there for her for an entire week. And the idea again is that in the place of judgment, that's where there's a memory. Hashem remembers and brings up very high the charity, the righteous things that we've done. Okay, so that's the idea here. Now he says, this is not all. That when a person is judged, so the actions and the merits of a person are mentioned as well. The righteous things come alongside the negative things. He says an amazing thing. This is so deep and so beautiful, and I've experienced this in my life, and I'm sure that many of you have experienced this as well. And that is that whenever Hashem brings a person through a difficult time in their lives, a challenging time, and that's the time of judgment. A person goes through a tough time in his life, whether it's a sickness, or whether it's rocky roads in relationships, or whatever it might be. Tough times in school, whatever the tough time might be, parnasa, livelihood issues. Whenever those things happen, you should know Hashem is drawing you so close at that time. Whenever Hashem brings judgment into the world, an amazing thing. Hashem has extra love towards whoever is going through that rough time, through that judgment. And how do you know that this is true? We find this from that which our sages say. It's a Gemara in Yoma Daf Nun Daled, in Yoma, page 54. When the destroyers came into the Kodesh HaKadosh, the Holy of Holies, when they destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, the temple, they found on the Aron, of course we know that there were the Keruvim and the cherubs, and our Chazal teach us that whenever the cherubs were facing away from each other, it was because of the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that God was upset with the Jewish people. But when they faced each other, that showed that Hashem was in a proper relationship with the Jewish people. And if they were hugging each other, it showed a great love that Hashem had for the Jewish people. And it's an amazing thing. says Reb Chaim, that when the destroyer came in to destroy the temple, you would think that there would be no greater time where Hashem is turned away from the Jewish people. But at that very moment of judgment, at that very moment where they were being punished for their immense sins, Hashem wanted the Jewish people to see and know that that was the moment where there was intense love, intense connection. And I don't have time to read the entire piece, but it's really beautiful. It's worth seeing. This is in Haazinu, in Tafshin Lamed Gimel, 1973. It's worth seeing it inside. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with you just one little idea that has to do with the connection between Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkos. Because, it's an amazing thing. Sukkos is this amazing, joyous time of the year. We have the Arba Minim, we have the Lulav, we have the Esrog, we sit in our sukkahs, we have the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, there's so much music going on, there's so much joy and dancing in Simchas Torah. And if you contrast that with what happens Pesach time, it's very different. Pesach is a nice holiday, it's beautiful, we also enjoy the Haggadah, and we have the Seder night, but it's a different level, it's a different type of holiday. Sukkos is a time of intense joy. Vayisa Ach Sameach, it says, by Sukkos. It says there's an extra mitzvah of joy. And I believe that we could say, based on what Reb Chaim is saying, that it's not a coincidence that we have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which are a time of intense judgment, a time of intense introspection, a time of intensity. That goes right next to and leads right into Sukkos, which is a time of intense joy. And we read the psukim of Haazinu, and we hear about what happens if we don't do what's right. And we hear all the judgments, and we hear all of the terrible things that can occur to Jewish people when we don't do what we're supposed to do. But side by side with that is a song. It's a song of Haazinu. It's a song of joy. It's a song of joy because paradoxically, whenever we experience judgment, whenever Hashem has to judge the Jewish people, perhaps it's because they've done something wrong, or perhaps it's just that time. It's that time of year. But side by side with the judgment, Reb Chaim tells us, is an amazing love, is an amazing recognition. Can you imagine that? Hashem is sitting there in his robes of judgment, in his dark robes, kiviyachol, and he's judging the Jewish people. Well, what's he doing? He's saying, for every avera, don't bring me the averas yet. First, let me see the beautiful mitzvahs that the Jewish people do. Let me show you every minute of learning Torah, every hour of learning Torah. Let me show you all of the chesed, all of the tzedakah. I'm going to go through all of the things first that the Jewish people are doing right. That's what Hashem looks at first. And then he looks at the negative things. Okay, we can look at that too. We got to look at that also. We got to clean it up. We have to find atonement for it. But it's coming out of love. It's an amazing thing. It's a time of such intense love. Yom Kippur is a time of love. And it bursts forth into Sukkos, into that continuation. We're past it. We've gotten atonement. Hashem has forgiven us. And now we're going to just talk about our relationship with Hashem. We're going to dance with the Torah. We're going to dance with the mitzvahs. We're going to have the lulav, the esrog, the bringing together of all the elements of Klal Yisrael. It's an exciting time. It's a special time. So I want to bless you and ask you to bless me. Hashem should write us into that book of Gemar Chasima Tova, of good life, of all of the things that we want for ourselves and for others, for our families. Hashem should bless us in that way. Hashem should give us intense joy and help us recognize how much He loves us, and help us to realize that when He's judging us, He's also bringing up all of those positive things. Hashem should help us to realize that. And going into Yom Kippur with that understanding, Hashem should help us to have an amazing, meaningful fast. And it should pour out into incredible joy over the next few weeks of Sukkos, Simchas Torah. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Yom Kippur, wonderful Shabbos, and a wonderful Sukkos.
This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.